Hi. So if you've been following along the previous videos, I've been using the Steam Deck Games Launcher that I wrote for Amarchi that's been modified for Catchy, Mint, Pop, and then I used Bazzai in deck mode. And the whole idea here was basically, if you move the desktop environment and then you install, you run Steam as it's supposed to be run, which is in the deck mode, which is what nature intended, as it were, Valve really want you to do, because you can see it on a Steam Deck and that'll be on the new Steam devices. What's the performance like? Which is your gaming distro? What should you use, So I did this because it's an interesting thing. You do see people say you should get Bazzai, you should get Nubara, you should get this is the best. Now, in some ways it's whatever suits you, but with gaming, it's a bit different. It's specific people have people don't if you don't have a Steam library, I mean, it's a bit trickier if you use Lutris to get things set up. So I just wanted to go through this and just sort of show you this, and then we'll come back and have a chat, and you can make what you will of the results. So with that said, let's dive in. Okay, so what I've done, as you saw in the previous videos, I've run Returnal, I've run Cyberpunk 2077, and I've run Doom, and I've run them all under the same conditions, which is basically install, first boot, run. And the only one I think I had to duplicate run was Cyberpunk 2027 on Mint, because I couldn't get my head around the results. Anyway, so let me just play the video here. If it works. Here we go. So we are looking at Returnal, and this is running on a Amarchi. So I just use my base machine, the one that I use every day, and play my games library. So yes, so this is inside the Steam launcher, and it's Returnal. Returnal's pretty good for benchmarking because it's not hugely long as a benchmark, but it does test a lot of the capabilities of the computer. At the top, on the top left-hand side, you can see that I've got Mango HUD running over the internal thing. Now, sometimes there's a variation between the two. So anyway, so I think that one of the things with this is I've not used FrameGen. This is all at 1440p, and it's all on the highest settings or ultra settings, and there's no ray tracing. And I don't know, I've not switched off HDR. So basically, it's on the same on every single one. And then one of the big things when I mentioned HDR is if you do run in Gamescope, like pure Gamescope session, and not through a desktop environment, you can use HDR and VVR, variable rate refresh. It just doesn't seem to work very well, and if you do it into like a Wayland session or any other thing. Anyway, so this is great game. Never, as I said before in other videos, never really played this too much, but it's got good graphics. It's a good test, and it's interesting because it doesn't use very much VRAM. You can see that it's only taking about 6 gigs of VRAM, so it's not huge on the VRAM. And I've also got DLSS is on quality on this. And what we'll do is come to the end of this and you give you the score of the Amarchi, and then we'll give you the scores on the doors for all the others. And remember, they're all being tested exactly the same way. So it's Debian, Pop, Mint, all of them being run through a Gamescope session. So here we go. Last part of this. Yeah, I had to there's some guy that did the entire game, and I had to watch the YouTube video. I couldn't, it was too difficult. I had to watch the guide. I want to see how it ended, but I just couldn't invest the time in it. Anyway, here we go. So let's see what we got. So the final score on this is 96. Okay, so let's see what we got off the others. Give that a second, and I'll put up a card. There we are. So return Mint got 97, Pop 97, Catchy OS, and then Bazzai 97. I'm going to move myself. Camera. I'll move myself over there a bit. Shrunk myself. Let's make myself a bit smaller. Okay. So you can see very similar. Okay, so now we've got Doom. Again, this is Doom running on Amarchi, and it's the Benchmark 2, which is the city of something or other. Give it a second. Off it goes. So this is Amarchi, yeah. See, it is interesting. One of the things, I mean, I should really do a separate video about this. Is just like when you try and launch a game, like in a Marchi, by default, you just see all these posts online. I tried to launch XYZ and it didn't work. And a lot of this, I think, is people coming over from Windows, thinking that you can use Steam just like you can on Windows, where you launch it. Now, remember, Windows has got one compositor thing, and that's it. That's all it uses, same as Mac. You can't switch desktops, you can't do anything. And you're mentally thinking everything's the same. I've got a desktop, everything should run through it. That's not how Linux works. There's other dependencies and things that you need to get stuff to work. And like if you're using Plasma, Hyperland, Neri, GNOME, or whatever, Cinnamon, all these different things, there's different things you need to do to get it to work. So it's just not so simple. That's why Steam Deck mode or Steam Deck is the great leveler. Because if you run it like this, you just play your games. You don't have those issues because you're just shutting down the rest of it, the other things that could be potentially going on, and you're just like literally playing in a game system. So I mean, this is something people have got to get into their heads. You know, you can't quite use it like you did Windows. You have to start thinking like this. Now, it's problematic for people who want to play a game on one screen and a game on another screen. Do you know what I mean? Like you split screens. You have a screen over here doing something else and something else. That's very much a Windows thing, isn't it? You've got a game playing on one monitor and something else. Now, there are ways to do that, to get it set up, to do that with definitely launching from the desktop. You can do it with loads of commands and you can get it working. So you've got that over there and that over there. However, if you just want to play games and you're not that person, you just want to play a game, you know, do that, then this is what you need. You know, it's very much frames focused. If you want to do one of the other things, then, you know, you'll have to learn a bit more coding. Okay, so this is coming at 84 average. Let's see what the other ones did. 84. Mint 85, Pop 85, Catchy was 64. I don't know what that was, and I ran it twice. Don't know about that. And everything else is 84, so all about the same. So that's pretty good. I don't know why Catchy came in with that score. That was very, very odd. Okay, so Cyberpunk. Now, Cyberpunk's long in the tooth. It's been, you know, it works on all Linux distributions. It's well prepped for Linux. Plays really well through Proton, and it's quite mature, as it were. So we just run this one. And as you can see, I've just got Mango HUD going. And this is on ultra settings. Ultra settings with DLSS on auto and 4040p. Yeah, I mean, it's not the most this one I've not run. I could have made you sit through every single benchmark. That would have bored me to death. So here we go. That frame time graph is flat as a pancake when you're running Gamescope. I mean, it's specifically developed for games. So you want, like, look at it. It's just ridiculous. It's like just not even making a move. So the spec of this machine, if I've not told you before, it's a Ryzen 9. It's one of those Minis Forum 780, 7 SE card, you know, so like the CPU is bolted down. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, 5060 Ti, and it's 2 NVMe's. So what do we want? 94. This is a Marchi. So here's the final scores. Mint 97, which I still couldn't get my head around. Pop 88, Catchy 94, Bazzox 95, and a Marchi 95. Now the thing is, let me just pause this thing. Media source pause. Oh, come back a bit. Let's go back to that one. Can I move it along? Can I scrub it? Oh, bear with me, get it to there. We'll pause. Okay, so the thing with this is, it's like I ran Mint twice to get that score, and it came first one was 99, which was insane. So I don't believe that. So 97, I'll live with that. But that's, as you can see, but they're quite close. All of them are there. So that's quite cool. So, okay, that's that. Let's come back to me. That one. Okay. So there you go. There's a lot of long-winded videos, but I may add a bit to come out like a Pop launch you can get in the members area. The Pop Games Launcher yet. So if you subscribe to the members, you can get the Pop Cosmic Games Launcher and the Mint Cosmic, the Mint Games Launcher. They're there in there. The Catchy one's already in there if you want it as well. So doing that, I think, you know, the end result, and it's a bizarre thing to say, is what's the best Linux gaming distro? And it's the one that you've got. It's literally if I did that, I'm sure with Ubuntu, if I did that with OpenSUSE, or any of the other major distros, Fedora or whatever, but Basite's basically Fedora, I'd get the same results. That's because we're going through the Steam Deck platform. Catchy, it's super hyped, okay, about I've done something wrong, but that's out of the box. I've not tweaked it, and I'm just using the same test on all of them. I mean, if Proton GE or Proton Catchy, whatever it's called, gives you better performance, I mean, let me know. I don't know. I've not tested it. But they all look, I mean, I think there's some aberrations in there with Mint getting the highest score on Cyberpunk. That's completely mind-boggling. And then the score on Catchy. But yeah, all Linux, underneath all the pizzazz that sit on the top of Linux, it's basically the same kernel, isn't it? Right, okay, and the packages are fundamentally the same, if you think about it. They may be in the AUR or apt or whatever you do with these repositories, but it's all the same stuff. So if you get all the same stuff underneath and you just clear away all the plasma crap and stuff off the top and you play the games over the top, you're going to get the same scores. So I'm sure that tweaking Catchy or something will give you a little bit more French if you really want that, but not much. And if you're using Linux Mint, if that's what you like, then you can play games just as fast as anybody who's got Catchy or Basite. I think a lot of it comes as the prep package. So Basite comes predefined for people to play games, like so does Nubaro. Linux Mint doesn't. That comes with, that's just like a desktop. Same as what else we did? Pop's like a general purpose OS, but it doesn't. It's like Windows is a general purpose OS. Windows was never designed for you to play games, was it? It was designed to be in an accountant's office doing spreadsheets. That's how sexy Windows is. But so you see what I mean? But then you put games over it and you can play games on it. So yeah, so there is no best distro. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's all about how you employ the software that's out there, Gamescope, stuff like that, on the top of it. So the moment you get rid of that desktop environment, you're only dealing with Linux. So you'll get the same performance. So there you go. So yeah, best gaming distro of 2026. You're using it right now if you're using Linux because they're all the same. Anyway, as usual, thanks for watching.